Welcome back to the Archive Network. Aurelius here, with Malik, curators of the Treaty Archive. We left Maastricht Treaty last time. At Next, we explore how the treaty's bold terms played out in the real world. Today we pick up where we left off. The ink was barely dry on the Maastricht Treaty when it was clear that its terms were set to reshape Europe in ways we couldn't ignore. This wasn't just a name change. It transformed the European community into the European Union, marking a bold step toward genuine unity across the continent. We were witnessing a monumental shift in how nations interacted, forging deeper ties and shared goals. It was a calculated move, one that would alter the course of European history for generations to come.
Aurelius, I really appreciate your focus on transformation. But we can't ignore the real cost of this shift. It wasn't just a matter of changing names or logos. It required significant sacrifices from member states. Countries had to give up vital economic controls, which understandably raised fears among their citizens. People worry about losing their national sovereignty and what that would mean for their everyday lives. It's those fears that make this transformation all the more complex and human.
You're correct about the stakes. The heart of the treaty was the push toward economic and monetary union, or EMU. This was radical. Member states would coordinate their economic policies more closely than ever before. They had to meet strict Maastricht criteria to qualify for the euro. Think about it. Nations that had once fiercely guarded their sovereignty were now tethered together by economic rules. It was a remarkable leap into a shared future, but it also raised questions about control and unity.
But those criteria weren't just guidelines. They were harsh tests that put immense pressure on entire nations. Countries had to endure painful reforms and austerity measures that affected everyday people. It wasn't just about economic integration. It was about political will, public acceptance, and the struggles of citizens who felt the weight of these decisions. The price of entry into this new club was steep, and it sparked fierce debates and deep divisions among the populace.
The allure of the euro was undeniably strong. With stable prices and lower interest rates, it promised a more robust economy for all member states. But, as we know, those benefits came with a price. Behind that shiny facade lay a complex web of compromises, fragile agreements that could easily unravel. The treaty's framework was ambitious, yes, but it relied heavily on member states' willingness to comply. Compliance is never guaranteed, and history shows us that unity can be precarious.
Aurelius, you've painted a rosy picture. But let's pause for a moment and consider the human cost. The citizens weren't just numbers in a ledger. They were real people, feeling the weight of austerity in their daily lives. For countless families, the dream of a united Europe was becoming a distant promise, lost in the struggle to make ends meet. We can't overlook how these policies affected their hopes and aspirations, leaving many to wonder if the future held any real opportunity for them.
You make a valid point about the human impact, but we can't overlook that Maastricht aimed to empower the European Parliament as well. It transformed from a rather weak institution into one wielding genuine legislative power through the co-decision process. This shift not only enhanced democracy but also brought a level of accountability that was sorely needed in the EUI. By giving more voice to elected representatives, we fostered a system where citizens might actually feel their concerns are addressed.
Empowering Parliament was definitely a step forward, but honestly, it just wasn't enough. So many citizens still felt disconnected from the decisions that impacted their daily lives. Just because we had a stronger Parliament didn't mean their voices were genuinely heard. The real challenge was figuring out how to create a sense of ownership among Europeans. We needed people to feel that their opinions mattered, that they were part of the conversation. It was about bringing everyone into the fold.
Precisely. The introduction of European citizenship was radical and unprecedented. It allowed citizens to live and work throughout the EU, fostering a shared identity. This was a leap toward integration, but it also raised important questions about how national identities could coexist with a European identity. We have to consider how these overlapping identities can shape our understanding of belonging. After all, as we see in history, The blending of cultures often leads to both enrichment and tension.
Aurelius, while European citizenship was a bold step, it also stirred up a lot of friction. People were genuinely worried about losing their national identities, their sense of belonging. The promise of mobility and opportunity sounded great, but not everyone shared that vision. For many, the reality was uncertainty. They questioned what it would mean for their families, their jobs, and their communities. It's easy to look at the big picture, but the human cost is often overlooked.
And then there was the common foreign and security policy. It aimed to give Europe a unified voice in global affairs. The ambition was clear, yet the execution proved challenging. National interests often clashed. Each country had its own priorities, and that revealed the complexities of true integration. We saw how difficult it was to balance these competing demands. History shows us that building consensus is never easy, especially when the stakes are so high.
Exactly. A united front sounds ideal, but the reality is often messy and complicated. Each member state has its own set of priorities and agendas, which makes genuine cooperation a real challenge. We have to ask ourselves, can Europe truly find a way to speak with one voice? It's vital that we don't lose sight of the unique identities that make up this continent. After all, it's the people behind these decisions who bear the human cost of our choices.
Getting the Maastricht Treaty ratified was quite the ordeal. Each country faced its own drama. Denmark's unexpected no vote sent shockwaves through Europe, sparking fears of a fractured union. These close calls laid bare the deep divisions we often overlook. Yet, through all these hurdles, the treaty's vision still inspired a glimmer of hope for a united future. We saw once again that the ambition for unity can sometimes rise above the chaos, even when it feels like everything is falling apart.
That's where we leave it this time. Maastricht Treaty continues. The story isn't finished yet. Find the full series on the Treaty Archive, part of the Archive Network. We'll be back with the next chapter.